How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. If you're new to my channel, my name is Max, and for the past couple years I have been building my Toyota Sequoia into a vehicle that I can take truck camping and just go on some camping adventures around Oregon and the Pacific Northwest. Over the past couple years of doing this, I've camped in all types of weather, from cold, freezing winter nights to hot summer days. I've experienced a lot and I've learned a lot as well. I've definitely made a lot of mistakes on my truck camping adventures, but in doing so I've learned a lot about gear and equipment, sleeping in the back of your vehicle, finding epic camping locations, and really just having an enjoyable time truck camping. Today I want to take some time to talk a little bit about my experience over the past couple years and give you guys some information, give you some tips and tricks about truck camping and what I've learned. So if you're interested in truck camping, maybe going to a more remote destination, or even just planning your very first truck camping adventure, today's video is for you. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's a great free way to help support my channel. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with today's video, how to go truck camping for the first time. I remember my very first truck camping adventure and feeling pretty overwhelmed. There are so many different things to think about: where you're sleeping, all of your sleeping equipment, all of your safety gear, cooking gear, the list kind of goes on. So my plan today is to kind of break lots of this information down into a couple of categories here, share some of my experiences, and hopefully in doing so it'll help make truck camping feel a little bit less overwhelming for you guys. So let's go ahead and get started with the first category today, which is going to be all about truck camping gear and equipment. It's really important with truck camping to be prepared for any type of situation or any type of weather, and the gear and equipment that you have with you plays a big role in your overall enjoyment. I'm going to give you guys a list here of all of the equipment that I bring with me truck camping, and it's important to not get too overwhelmed and understand that I've acquired all of this gear over the past couple of years. I did not start out with all of this at once, and you definitely don't need everything that I have in order to go on your first truck camping trip. I hope this list will be helpful in giving you guys a little bit of a better idea of some of the equipment that I bring when I go truck camping. First of all, we're going to talk about sleeping gear and everything I bring for sleeping right here in the back of my Sequoia. The first thing I have is a foam pad. I just have a 3-inch foam pad that I purchased from Home Depot for like 20 bucks. I've used it in pretty much every video that's on my channel and it's worked great. But they actually make truck camping mattresses as well, but I wanted something cheap and I've had no problems with the foam pad that I purchased. Second of all, I always bring a sleeping bag, even on summer camping trips. Sometimes it can get cooler at night, and it's just a piece of equipment that I always like to have just to be prepared. One of the big benefits to truck camping compared to backpacking is that you have a lot of space in the back of your vehicle. So bring as much as you want, bring a lot of pillows, bring a lot of blankets, and I promise you it's going to make your truck camping experience a lot more enjoyable. So when it comes to what I bring for sleeping, that's really it. I keep it pretty simple and it's worked really well for me. Now we're going to transition over to cooking gear and equipment and talk a little bit about what I bring for cooking food when I'm out truck camping. So I bring my stove. I have a 2-burner stove. I love this. In the past I used to use a little Jetboil, which is just a small kind of way to warm up, boil water, cook your food, so that's another option. But for now I have a 2-burner stove and I've been using that for about the past year. I always bring a lot of propane. I have at least 5 of the green Coleman cans with me. I always bring a hot mitt. This is something I used to forget all the time, but some way to grab your pots when they're done cooking, so a hot mitt is really helpful. Tupperware for leftovers. This is another thing I used to not bring and I always would forget until recently, but if you're cooking a full meal when you're out truck camping and you want to bring some of it home, having Tupperware or plastic bags or somewhere to put your food is something to think about and something that can be really helpful. A cooler. This is another new item that I've started bringing with me. I have a Yeti Tundra 35 cooler, I think. It's been awesome. It's helped keep food super cold even on the hot summer days, so I love having the cooler. Forks, spoons, and butter knives are something that I have with me, along with cutting knives. I always bring plates and bowls and mugs, and I have a couple of each in case I'm ever camping with anyone and they need some. I always bring a can opener. This is another thing I always would forget. A spatula for whatever you're cooking, and just some bigger spoons if you're making pasta. Measuring cups is another thing I bring, just really helpful to have if you're ever following a recipe. And then I always have a couple pots with me, a couple pans, a non-stick pan, a cast iron pan, and a strainer as well. And that's kind of it when it comes to my cooking gear and equipment. The next category we're going to talk about here is just cleaning and some sanitary products to bring. So again, I'm going to read off a list of what I have in the back of my Overland drawers. Another important thing to mention here is that everything that I'm reading off on this list, I pretty much keep in the drawers full time, so it's ready to go, and it makes it super easy to get out on my truck camping trips. So here we go. Here's a list of the cleaning products I have for truck camping. Hand sanitizer, really nice to have. Baby wipes, another nice important thing. Your hands get dusty and dirty, and if you don't have fresh water when you're out like on a dispersed truck camping trip, for example, baby wipes and hand sanitizer come in handy a lot. Some hand soap, dish soap if you're trying to do dishes. I always have a sponge or some type of scrub brush, again for doing dishes. You may want some type of bucket for doing dishes. How you do dishes is really your personal preference. I do have a little kind of sink, but realistically I almost never use it, so kind of up to you there. A microfiber towel, paper towels as well. Paper towels come in handy all the time. Trash bags are another thing I never used to really think about, but they are super handy because when you're out camping, if you're not at a campsite, otherwise you don't really have anywhere to put your trash. Moisturizer and chapstick, just some personal care products that I bring. Sometimes the air is super dry and your lips get dry. Toothbrush and toothpaste, those are kind of self-explanatory. Deodorant as well, and then I always have a couple spare toilet paper rolls just in case. You never know, even if there are bathrooms where you're going, it would suck if there was no toilet paper there, so I always have a couple extra rolls of toilet paper as well. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about water and how I bring water with me truck camping, because especially if you're interested in going dispersed truck camping, and just so you guys are aware, if you're not familiar with the term dispersed camping, but it basically just means going to a location that is not necessarily an established campsite. So lots of times when you go dispersed camping, it's at a location kind of like where I am now, just in the middle of the forest. There aren't going to be any services, toilets, bathrooms, anything like that. You're kind of just out in the middle of nature. It's really amazing. It's a great way to experience solitude. But in doing so, you always have to bring some more equipment and be a little bit more prepared. So that's kind of what I mean when I say dispersed camping. Is just going to a location like this that's not an official campsite. So when you're going dispersed camping especially, it's really important to always bring a lot of water, and I want to share with you guys how I do that. So first of all, I always bring at least a couple hydro flasks. These are great. They hold quite a bit. I think this one's 40 ounces and my other one is 32 ounces. So I always have these with me, and they're great just for drinking water and making sure that you're staying hydrated. Now in terms of water for doing dishes and cooking, I always have a 7-gallon water jug that I bring with me. Sometimes when I'm going camping on a multi-day trip or just to an area that I know is going to be really hot, like this summer I went and camped in the desert for a couple days. Sometimes I will bring 2 of those 7-gallon water jugs, so I have 14 gallons of water. I know that sounds like a lot, and it is, but you always have to be safe. When you're out truck camping and you don't have any services around, I always like to err on the side of being extra safe and bringing way more water than you'll think you'll need. Also, having more water allows you to just feel comfortable doing dishes, feel like you can use water for cooking, and just have some left over, so it gives you some peace of mind. But that's kind of how I bring water: a couple hydro flasks and then a couple 7-gallon jugs. It's as simple as that. Now let's talk a little bit about clothing, and the key here is really just being prepared. If you're interested in fall or winter camping in particular, it can often get a lot colder, and if you don't have the right gear or equipment to stay warm, it's not going to be a very enjoyable time. Being freezing or being very cold can ruin your truck camping trips very quickly, so it's always important, again, to be over prepared and have more gear and more layers than you think you might need. Before we talk about winter clothing, I'm going to quickly talk about summer camping and a few pieces of clothing you might want to bring with you on your truck camping adventures in the summer. First of all, a light sweatshirt or jacket. Even in the summer, even on hot days, it can get cooler at night, so having at least 1 or 2 layers just in case is really important. A couple t-shirts, couple pairs of shorts, swim shorts in the summer. If you're ever camping near bodies of water like a lake or a river, it can be really nice to go swimming, so I always advise bringing a swimsuit with you. Having a pair of pants, again, just in case it does get cold. Having some flip-flops or sandals for swimming or just around camp can be really nice. And then just the basics: some socks, underwear, changes of clothing. Just in case you do get dirty, it's always nice to have backups. for winter camping, I bring a lot more clothing. It's really important to be prepared, and that often means having a lot more layers. I always bring usually a rain jacket or a snow jacket. Out here in Central Oregon, it can snow in the fall or winter, and you want some way to stay dry. I always have some type of base layer for my top and legs, kind of like a long underwear, something like that. I always bring a lot of jackets. I have a Patagonia down jacket and just some kind of fleece layers that I bring. Just a lot of layers here. You want to make sure that you can stay warm. I always bring hat and gloves. Those are very nice, especially when it's snowing. You're probably going to need some of those. And then just like summer camping, bring a couple changes of clothes, bring some extra socks, bring some extra underwear, just in case anything gets wet or gets dirty. You want to be able to swap it out and just have some clean clothes. At least in my opinion, I think it's nice to have. So that's kind of a look into what I bring with me when I go camping when it comes to clothing. It looks a little bit different in the summer versus the winter, of course, but I guess my biggest piece of advice is just over prepare yourself. Bring a lot more layers than you think you might need. It's a lot better to have it and not need it. The last category of gear and equipment that I'm going to talk about is just some safety items that I bring with me. A first aid kit, always really important to have. I just have a simple one, but it's always in the back of my drawers. I have an OBD2 scanner. You don't really need this, but in case you ever get a check engine light, I love having it because I can scan it right there on the spot. I have a Garmin InReach. This is just a way to send a message to people to let them know that I'm okay or if I need help. This is in the event that you don't have cellular service, of course, but some way to contact people when you're out in remote locations can be really important. There's also a spot device that I used to have that works as well, but there's a lot of little devices like this, but I recommend the Garmin InReach. That one works great. Advil is another thing. I used to always get headaches when I would be truck camping for some reason, so having Advil, just nice to have in case you need it. A multi-tool, a socket wrench, and a socket set can be really important to have. Lots of these things you may never even need, but it's all just about being prepared. Some tools to change a tire. This is an important one. If you have a spline key on your lug nuts, make sure you actually have that key with you. A headlamp or some type of light is another important one. A lighter and matches, also very important. A Jackery, Goal Zero, any of those kind of portable charger packs. I love having mine personally. It comes with me on all of my truck camping trips, and it's great for charging a phone or other small devices, camera batteries, things like that. And then lastly, just in the category of safety here, extra food is always really important. Just in case, again, you may never need it, but it's always better to be prepared. And I know I've said that over and over again, but I really want to keep emphasizing that. If you're going truck camping for the first time, be over prepared. It's the best and safest way to do it. Alright, so that hopefully gives you guys a little bit of a better idea of some of the gear and equipment that I bring with me truck camping. Again, I know it sounds like a lot. Don't get too overwhelmed with all of this. You definitely don't need everything that I have on my list. I want to transition now into just giving you guys a little bit of advice how I would go about kind of getting into truck camping and going on my very first truck camping adventure. And the important part of this is just keeping it simple. So now that we've talked about what to bring on your first truck camping trip, now I want to give you guys some tips on how you take all of this information and actually go out on your first truck camping trip. It's really easy to look at social media and see these photos and videos of people out on multi-day truck camping adventures in remote destinations, and even if that's something you're really interested in, it can be hard not to look at that and kind of get overwhelmed and feel like, how the heck do I even get to that point? I certainly felt that way when I first started getting into truck camping, and I have a couple pieces of advice that I want to share with you guys to make that process of getting from no truck camping experience to being able to go out and camp in remote destinations a little bit easier. First of all, starting small I think is really important. When you're first truck camping, it may sound silly, but feel free to just sleep in the back of your vehicle for a night in your driveway or at your home. You don't necessarily need to go out to a remote location for your first truck camping trip, and in fact, I actually don't really recommend it. I encourage you guys to spend the night in the back of your truck or SUV just to familiarize yourself with what it's like. I guarantee you'll learn a lot by doing so, and it'll help you kind of design your setup and build it to be even better for your next trips. If you're not really interested in sleeping in your driveway or just at your house, I totally understand. So what I kind of recommend for the next step before going to remote locations is just to go to an established campsite. Going to an established campground is a great way to practice kind of packing up your gear, packing up your equipment, and going out for a little adventure. It's a lot lower risk than going to a remote location, because in the event that you forget something, lots of times there's services nearby. There's often bathrooms as well. It just makes things a little bit simpler. This is kind of my next step. My next thing I would recommend for you guys before you go to remote truck camping is to go and camp at an established campground. Now, I don't have videos on my channel of this, but I wanted to let you guys know that that's actually how I started as well. Before I went on my first truck camping trip, which I'll talk more about here in a little bit, I actually spent a lot of time sleeping in the back of vehicles just at actual campgrounds. I was really into photography, so lots of times I'd go on my own solo adventures when I was a little bit younger, and I'd sleep right in the back of my Subaru Crosstrek at the time, and I'd do so at campgrounds. That's how I kind of got started with truck camping or SUV camping. That was kind of my first taste of it, and I did not go to remote locations as my first experience with it. I kind of had this gradual transition and just got myself familiar with what it's like to spend a night in the back of a vehicle first. I really encourage you guys to do the same. For your first dispersed truck camping trip, pick a location that is close to home. Don't go too far. Pick an area that is really easy to get back home, or to go get something if you forgot something important. You don't need to go way out into the forest or way out into the mountains for your very first dispersed truck camping trip. Understand that your first dispersed truck camping trip might not go quite as planned, and let me tell you, mine certainly did not. I actually have a video on my channel from a couple years ago now on my very first dispersed truck camping adventure, and honestly, it was not very fun. It was very cold. I was very underprepared. I did not have a lot of ways to stay warm. I was freezing all night. It really was just miserable. I still remember that drive home. I had just purchased this Toyota Sequoia. I had been looking for a vehicle to go truck camping with for a couple months at this point, and I had been so excited. I had just purchased the vehicle. I was on my drive home, and I was just like, what the heck am I doing? Like, am I ever gonna like this? That was awful. I don't want to ever do this again. And I was just questioning a lot of things. So just understand and remember, your first dispersed truck camping trip, or your first couple just truck camping trips, even at a campground, they might not go quite as planned. So I think my biggest takeaway for you guys here is just to start simple, start small. Understand that it's going to take time to get used to sleeping in the back of your vehicle. Understand that it's going to take time to get used to packing all of your gear and equipment. You're going to have some bad trips. You're going to forget items. It happens. It still happens to me after doing this for a couple years. Just give yourself some time to get used to this, and if you don't feel totally comfortable with it right away, just understand that that is totally okay, and that is exactly how I felt when I was first truck camping too. If you are interested in truck camping but feel like it's just a little bit outside your comfort zone, that is totally okay. I highly recommend starting small, following the steps that I kind of laid out, and I promise you it'll make truck camping feel a lot more achievable. Alrighty, so I know that was a lot of information there, but I hope that helps to kind of simplify truck camping and make it feel a little bit less intimidating. Truck camping has been so amazing for me. It's gotten me around Oregon, Washington, California, and to all of these beautiful locations. And it's just been such a beautiful way to go out and experience nature and the outdoors. I really want you guys to be able to go out and create some of these memories and experience nature like I've been able to do. And I understand that it can feel like a lot when you're first trying to get into truck camping. So I wanted to make this video to kind of break it down and hopefully simplify it to make it feel like it's a little bit less overwhelming. If you guys enjoyed, if you found it helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. It's a great free way to help support my channel, and it really does mean so much. So I do appreciate it. Thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.